Ladies and gents, welcome to episode 1 of the Underground Kings podcast. This has been a very long time in the making, and I'm proud to announce that we are officially kicking things off. We got the podcast studio up and running, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Mr. Nico Parisi.
What's up, everybody?
So what we're going to do here to kick this off is I've been a little bit in the dark as far as social media is concerned for quite some time now. So we're going to go ahead and catch people up, and you'll come to know as to why Nico is the first guest of this podcast. He definitely has a viewpoint, a perspective of kind of how I've gotten to where I'm at that not many others have, and is also a lot of the reason as to why I am where I am right now and doing what I'm doing. So first and foremost, thanks, Nico.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to get this, rocking and rolling, but it's been, like you said, a few months in the making, but to be here now, it's pretty cool to get started. So thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. A few months is an understatement.
Well, we'll keep it short, yeah, but definitely months, plural, would be accurate.
Yep. So rewind back to September of 2021. Nico has been trying to get me to move for quite some time now. And he kind of was pestering me a little extra and was, letting me know there's a lot of opportunity where he's at in South Carolina. And I was in upstate New York, where Nico's originally from with his family as well. And so eventually he called me one too many times and cracked the whip one last time, and I decided it was going to be a good move for me. I know you called and kind of just were giving me a rundown of the opportunity cost and just the sheer amount of opportunity business I own a digital marketing agency, Blades Marketing. So for me to be able to move the business to an area of more opportunity, I think was definitely a good move, and you kind of sparked that. And Nico even said to come on down and stay at my place. And I'm
regrettably,
regrettably for his sake. But we're still in that situation, and it's been insane. And we're now in an office space. This was 8 months ago. 8 months ago, I moved down and was kind of just getting the business off the ground for the first couple months, working out of the house. And now I'm in this new office space. Maybe give them a little background on the office and kind of what that's entailed.
Yeah, so, you've been in business, a few years now, right? But a lot of it was from, working from home, whether it was a basement, bedroom, right? So, you came down, we got you initially settled down, in my house, working out of the house, not a problem. But to have a separate space to where you could dedicate, you're just going to be more efficient, in my personal opinion, whether it's professionally or, having a separate space to go to get some work done. So kind of gets you in the mindset of, let's grind. So, office space has been here, and it just needed a lot of work, to say the least. Ripping some tile up, some paint, some more tile, some more paint. But, started at probably November-ish, 2021?
It was probably November, tail end of November.
I would say we're still kind of, finishing some small things up, but for the most part, we're ready to go here. So, just a lot of work, late nights, but here we are ready to, produce a lot of content for people and provide value, whether it's, through your social media marketing or, through my financial education platform we're going to be starting up. It's going to be some exciting times ahead. So.
Absolutely. And really, when it comes to the office, we were almost kind of hesitant to even try and encompass what that entailed on the podcast due to the fact that, without pictures and some of the video footage that I have throughout that process, it's almost hard to do it justice,
right.
Just how far this place came. And I'm sure I'll be kind of publishing some of that in the future, probably around the time when we do our grand opening or whatever you want to call it.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's been a while. There's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes, something that I talk about. I even have the old clothing brand that I launched that is going to transform into something kind of new in the future.
It's pretty comfortable, by the way.
Yeah.
I will say that cotton.
It's premium, premium heavy cotton. It's, one of the shirts that I had, it says Silent Victories on it. And that's kind of a phrase that I've used for quite some time now. And really just when I think about what the last 8 months have entailed, it really has been a lot of silent victories. It's, going quiet on social, just going quiet in general, and kind of working towards building and creating what now we are just starting to kind of benefit from. And so that kind of wraps up where I'm at now. There's a lot of other things, but we're not going to sit here and talk hours about me because it's the last fucking thing I want to do.
Me too, yeah. I won't admit it, but I'll admit it.
So let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about what you got going on. So for starters, let's go ahead and kick things off with, what are you doing as far as work is concerned? What's your job title, and kind of what does your day-to-day look like because I know you actually have that corporate job.
Right.
So give us a little bit of details as far as what's going on with that.
Yeah, so long story short, I've been working in the finance industry for around 4 years now. Got with a big firm halfway through college, worked with them part-time, graduated college, started with them another year, and then transitioned over to another company. Long story short, my title, quote unquote, is a workplace planning consultant. Basically, individuals call in, they have a retirement account through their employer, and they might not know a lot about it. They have questions as to, what is a 401k, or, what investment options do I have? So basically, day in and day out, I have conversations with people, and might just be simple service needs. They want to write a check or whatever, but we kind of steer towards the planning and guidance route, want to kind of develop a financial plan for them centered around that employer-based, retirement plan, but encompassing the whole financial picture and helping those people. So I would say about, 4 years in, been doing a lot of financial education on, personal side, just with friends and family, but along on a professional level as well. So, fully licensed, been trading equities, mutual funds, all that good stuff for a few years now. But really, in my professional life and what I'm doing on the side, trying to tap in with as many people as I can to help them in that financial aspect.
Right. So let's talk more about that. Let's talk more about that this new side venture that you've been working on scaling out. I know you've been working on it since about the time I came down. We started building out kind of a bit of a content marketing strategy and things of that nature, all that fun stuff. And you were publishing content for quite some time. So give us a little rundown. So it's Millionaire Mindset. It's really just focused around financial literacy and kind of teaching the masses about, finance, how to manage their finances, things like that. Give me a little bit more of a rundown as far as what it is, what Millionaire Mindset is as a brand, what it stands for, and kind of what a little bit of the intermediate term vision is for that.
Sure. So I would say the idea, it's nothing new, but I would say I came across of it, recently going through high school and college. They don't really teach you much about practically anything in life like that you need, but specifically, financial education. I know, just high schools that will have personal finance and stuff, but they don't really delve deep into it. So back in high school, I had, basically, to keep it simple, like a business class, and we learned a lot about, business, how they're running, and that kind of delved me into finance, and, being in the industry for a few years now, I believe there's a lot of value and opportunity into teaching the masses of just simple things, financial basics, financial fundamentals, personal finance specifically. So that's kind of where the idea came from. And it's really just teaching people the basics of personal finance, and, more content will develop into more, higher level skilled, parts. But I would say basically, we truly believe in this country that, especially at a young age, that everybody should be able to retire a millionaire, if not a multimillionaire, period. So being able to teach people, the basics of how you do that through investing, different retirement accounts, how to get there. But, having a platform to where we can teach that in a very simple way, but we can also sort of allow you to tailor it to your specific situation, because everybody's going to be in a different situation, but the principles stay the same. It's just how you apply those to where you are. So long story short, we want to teach as many people as we can financial basics on personal finance and how that would apply to you specifically. So that's where the idea came from. And kind of the vision is, we just want to be a social media platform that people can go to. We're producing consistent content on that specifically. At some point, developing a online course to where people can kind of get a little bit more in-depth knowledge as to how it fits with them specifically, and maybe some custom tailored information on how we can help them get to where they want to go from where they are, what steps would need to be taken. So right now, we started it up a few months last year. Life happened, things came up, but we have to do this not just for us, but for people out there that need it. So that's where the motivation comes from, to pump out as much content as you can for them.
That's awesome. And I've seen this kind of come to fruition from just being kind of an idea. And from the start, I've always noticed, something about you and also really your family members as a whole is you guys are always you're always looking at the world and seeing about what you can do for others and how you can give back. And I think that at the start, this was genuinely when you just brought up the idea to me, and kind of you guys had already shot some content in the past about it, but it was really from the start, it was all about, just giving back and helping people, because it's like really you're giving help to, the younger you or the younger generation that still are not getting that level of financial education
right
in school.
Well, I just want to touch on the reason we're so passionate about it is because the value is just exponentially more the earlier you start with these principles. So if you start, investing at 18 years old to when you want to retire at 60, it's a shit ton easier than if you start at 30 or 40. I mean, the amount of money you have to put in is, I won't get into the details now, but it takes a lot less effort if you start earlier. You want time to work for you. So we want to be able to talk to these high schoolers and college people and young adults, teaching them these things so they can start as early as they can, because it only gets harder the less time you have to, to build on those going forward. So I just wanted to touch on that quick.
Right. I think it's a very noble cause. I definitely am fully behind you on it. I think it's a very cool thing. And I think that even leading up into this point, and here's something that'd be cool to talk about, is really just, we were talking about kind of the incremental improvements, kind of the compounding interest of marginal gains over the long term. And we talk about some of the content that we were shooting 7 months ago, and looking at some of the content we're shooting now. Now we're in the podcast, we're shooting this style of content, being able to look back and see how these small marginal improvements kind of, like I said, they start to compound over time. So it's kind of just this evergreen expansion, this evergreen learning platform to constantly be honing in your skill sets and kind of trying to get better and better incrementally. And I think, finance works a lot like that as well. It's you can learn just a few of these principles, a few of these things at a young age, especially like you're saying, and it can have such a massive impact because it compounds.
Yep.
Learning, you learn how to, maybe at first, this is the way I've always thought about it, is you learn how to make money. Then you learn how to make sure that you're able to retain that money or that wealth. And then you learn how to invest it and make that money work for you so that it goes out and it produces more money for you, or you're able to invest in certain opportunities that might come your way and be able to take advantage of those opportunities, like I said.
Yeah, I just think, it kind of touched already, but the value is tremendous, and I can't overstate it enough. And we're talking about, simple decisions that for people to make now, decisions now that require $100 a month can mean, multi-millions of dollars down the line. So that's why we want people to really start early. I mean, if I knew what I knew at 21, at 18, that makes a big difference, let alone people that still don't know these things at 25 or 30. That's why we want to, we can still help those people, and there's plenty of time, but it just makes the process easier if you start at 18 years old rather than, 25 or 30. So, we're tapping into that younger audience, but again, we always say in finance that it's never too late to invest because it's physically, it's not.
Right.
You always start where you are, right? You can't go back in time unless we found a DeLorean that we could take. It could be cool. They just came out with an electric DeLorean too, which is pretty cool. But anyway, you got to start with where you are. So that will help anybody in that situation, and all of our principles, apply to anybody, no matter what stage you're in. So, we're excited to kick it off again and be more consistent this time and to help as many people as we can. And it's nice because I do that in my professional side, right? I help as many people as I can, but to be able to do that in a more, I don't want to say casual, but in a different perspective and a different audience, to be able to help those people is quite fulfilling, I'd say.
Right, because within the corporate job, you are helping people, but you're always doing it through kind of the corporate lens, or
right.
You have to be seen a certain way, you have to act a certain way. Kind of with your finance side, it's not necessarily out of bounds for you to call out somebody for just being a dumbass.
Or use explicit language.
Right. That's my favorite part. I
can't do on the phone,
That's my favorite part. Yeah, unfiltered is just the best way to go.
Yep.
Okay, so like I said, moved down 8 months ago, last September, and getting around someone like yourself. So we're both same age, 24 years old. We actually pretty much grew up in diapers together. And
not the same diaper.
Yeah, not the same
diaper.
So hopefully.
I wouldn't know. I was like, 8 months old at the time.
Right.
But.
Well, we grew up together, and, coming down and just being around you and some of the conversations that we were having within those first couple of weeks that I moved down, those were conversations that I had never, we were talking about, finances. We were kind of planning out some of my personal finances and things of that nature. You laid out a full framework, a plan for me, kind of guided me and making sure that I built that framework around my goals and what was important to me. That was my first time really having a conversation like that, let alone with someone my age. Those are not generally the kinds of conversations that two 24-year-olds are sitting down on a Friday or a Saturday evening and having. And so that for me was very eye-opening. And you obviously, not that you're anywhere near where you want to be, and I totally get that.
Far from, yeah.
Far from. And I know exactly what you mean by that. But, you have done well for yourself. For being 24 years old, you've set yourself up well. You drive a nice car. Got a nice house, you set yourself up right, but these are all because you were practicing what you're preaching 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
So for me, like just getting around someone like yourself and having these conversations, people can kind of get some of, if not all of kind of the information that I was getting in a one night sit down with you to kind of discuss personal finances. They can get that through your content, which is such a cool thing to me, because you're taking something that, in all seriousness, that very night and kind of planning that out, that changed the course of the past year for me, and also due to that fact has changed the course of my life.
Right.
So the fact that you're able to kind of do that at scale and bring that value to the market, to people, is a really cool thing to me. But, just being around someone your age, my age, and having those kinds of conversations, I think it's a very cool thing.
Yeah, I would just say, people our age have different priorities, right? At any age, whatever. I would say I was fortunate enough to be exposed to, what short-term goals can achieve for you long-term. So if you hit, if you do certain things in the now, what it can achieve for you later on. So I would say knowing a lot of those long-term, like you say, the North Star of why am I doing this now? Having a long-term plan and a long-term framework for where you want to go, and then having concrete steps that you need to take to get there is, gives purpose into what somebody does. So, at 18, 19 years old, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, right? I was a criminal justice major for a semester. And most people don't know. But once you find, what you want to do, it gives you a lot of passion and drive. And from there, you want to couple that with a long-term vision of where you want to go, what you want to do. You want to couple that together and kind of build a game plan of where you want to go. So I would just want to say, it's important for people to have long-term goals and even short-term goals and how to get there. Because if you live life without, I don't want to say purpose, but live life without concrete benchmarks for where you want to go, there's a lot of inefficiency in life. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, why am I even doing this, right? Why do I want to pick up an extra shift? It's just another 6-hour shift. When you have concrete goals, or whether it's monetarily or whatever, it gives you purpose into what you want to do. So I would say for a lot of individuals our age, they might not understand the value of decisions now and how they impact you in the future. So being able to teach a larger audience about, the value, like time is so valuable. It's ridiculously valuable. So being able to just do a couple things now from 20 to 24 years old can change your life in a way that somebody at 40 years old can never get to. They just don't have that time anymore. So that's part of the message that we like to send to the audience, and we'll have content coming up on that. But definitely just want to emphasize, long-term goals, a framework on what you're doing now and why is extremely important.
It is crazy to me to think about that. Just kind of going off a point that you made, that, at a young age, a lot of us, maybe the more ambitious or on the business side of things, but also, people working everyday jobs, kind of just not settling for what they have. They want more. We're fighting to get money. We're making sacrifices to get money. And then, like you said, like once you're at an older age, you'd give anything just to get the time back. If you could buy, if older people could buy their time back, it'd be no question. It'd be a very easy answer. I mean, for me.
Right.
But, it's like, that's also why, it is important to find something in life that brings you some level of fulfillment, and to make sure that, what you're doing contributes to your goals, of course, like, but not getting too fuddy-duddy about it. I know we talked a little bit about this yesterday, about how, I used to watch Gary Vee a lot, and Gary Vee kind of introduced me to the whole ecosystem of not giving a fuck, swearing on all your content, and being an entrepreneur can actually be kind of this cool thing.
Right.
So for me, Gary Vee introduced me to that. And now, as I've progressed, both as an individual as well as in business, I've kind of gravitated away from his content, because a little bit of it is too, like, doesn't matter how young you are, like, follow your passion, do this, do that, which, like, it's great in theory, but a lot of young people don't know what they're passionate about, don't know necessarily what they want to do for the rest of their life, or what brings them true fulfillment. And so one side of that is you need to go out and be willing to experiment, be willing to fail, but also, like, as far as what your goals are, depending on what your goals are, you may have to make some very serious sacrifices. Sacrificing, working, we talked about working a shitty job,
Literally involving shit.
Yeah. I worked a job for a summer camp. I was a maintenance worker, and I figured we'd be mowing lawns and raking and doing, some small construction jobs. But I ended up spending half of a summer in a bathroom cleaning shit out of toilets. And, it was what it was. We got the paycheck. But for me, it was like, I didn't want to get up in the morning because it meant I had to go to work. I hated the job. I hated some of the people I was working with, or the individual I was working for at the time, the head honcho there. Mm. And it'd be funny if this came around to him, because then he'd see it. But yeah, dude's a prick. So anyways,
dick.
Anyways, just I worked that job anyways, though, because it was the summer before I went to college. I wanted to get some money squared away, some money in my bank account. Right. And at the time, my goals were not in line. My goals weren't in line with that. I was just working because it was what you were supposed to do. But, as you grow older, as you learn more about yourself and more about what fulfills you, or what kind of work you're doing, things of that nature, you can kind of narrow that down slowly, and kind of figure out the happy medium between sacrifices in the now to accomplish what you want in the future, versus just kind of going with the flow, ending up in a job or a situation that you fucking hate and being miserable.
Yeah, I would say a big takeaway is if you want to live like 95% of people, then you will be like 95% of people, right? You need to take extraordinary measures to be an extraordinary person. So, and it doesn't have to last forever, right? I'm not telling you to, bust your ass for 40 years. I mean, yeah, ideally. But if you've got to absolutely grind for 6, 9, 12 months, whatever you got to do it because it'll help you get ahead and be in that top 1-5%, which most people aren't. So, and again, having that drive and ambition helps you get through the shit times now to get to where you want to go. And I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but, unfortunately, if you don't know your passion, I mean, that's tough, right? A lot of people just don't know. So like you said, I don't have that answer, but, you just got to explore. You got to try new things. And, we kind of talked about yesterday with college and stuff, but there's no rush, right? I mean, if you don't know what your true passion is, I mean, you just, live a daily life. Just work 8 to 5, whatever, at least get ahead. And when you find it, you find it. I think most people do. I'd like to see a poll on what it is, but I think most people end up finding something that they do love and can make money from it.
I would hope so. And worst case scenario, which I hate promoting at all, just because where I personally stand on the matter, but, absolute worst case scenario, you end up with a job that pays you money and you can take that money and do fun things on your off time. But, obviously that's not an ideal situation considering most people spend 40 hours a week in a job.
Well, also, I actually want to make one point. I think it's important for people to think about it in a selfless aspect too. And I know it's extremely selfless, but I want to explain, especially if you're having a family. Are we good on time?
Yeah, you're good.
I would say especially if you're having a family, it's good to think about it for future generations. So ideally you want to enjoy your job and, all this shit, everything is, rosy. But if you don't, I mean, there is passion and there is drive into having a better life for your future generations, right? So let's say you got to work a shitty job for 30, 40 years. It sucks. That's what you got to do. You never found your passion. But if you can do the right things, whether it's investments or whatever, setting that future generation up, maybe by the time you're, 55, 60 and your kids are just getting into college and stuff, they don't have to worry financially, at least. That's taken care of. At least you did one thing for them in that aspect, right? So I think there's a silver lining in that aspect to kind of take steps to make sure that future generations will be better off. And not saying that they shouldn't work and all that stuff. That's a different conversation. But to just make sure that they will be not behind the 8 ball and be taken care of. And that your shitty years had some sort of purpose to it.
I agree with that. All right, so let's see. Let's say you are talking to, a kid that's maybe in high school right now, and he's kind of nearing graduation day, the whole go to college if you want to be successful age kind of thing, according to society. What would be your advice to that student that maybe doesn't necessarily know what he wants to do for the rest of his life, but is stuck in that situation where society as a whole, his teachers, his parents, his peers, all expect him to make that decision?
Yeah, so what I would say is, and again, we talked about this a little bit, but to go into it, it can feel very, a lot of pressure at 18 years old, especially when you don't know what the hell you want to do, right? So I would say to that individual that there is no rush in your decision, right? There is no, constitution that says I must go to college after, high school, right? So I want you to not rush the decision, especially because a lot of people don't know what they want to do. They end up going to college at a college they can't afford, and they end up having a degree that they don't end up even using. So I would say the 2 most important things is first, to not rush your decision. It's okay to just work a normal job right out of high school, figure your shit out. It's not a big deal. Secondly, if you want to make some sort of progress, I would say in most cases, you can go to a very inexpensive community college and get some of your credits towards a 4-year degree. You could do that whether it's right out of high school or take a couple years and then do that. There's no rush again. I would say those are the 2 ways to kind of explore a little bit more about life if you're unsure, build some real life experience. Also, the community college route, you can build some sort of progress towards that 4-year degree. So just a couple options. I would definitely say if you're unsure, don't just pull the trigger. It's not going to be worth it. And luckily, I'm not somebody with student loans, but if you're somebody that has, 40, 50, 80, $100,000 in student loans, and one, you don't even use a degree, but two, if you do use it, it's still going to take you a shit ton of time to get back to square one. So I would say the biggest thing is to not rush your decision.
Right. Yeah, I wish that's the kind of advice that I had been fed at that age, for sure. And I got away easy.
Right.
I got away easy compared to what a lot of these kids are doing. A lot of these kids, going out of state and going six figures into debt for the quote unquote college experience.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. It's enticing when you're 18 years old. You want to just shoot the shit and just do whatever, party it up, which is fine. But I personally think there's a lot of value in making smart decisions now when you're 18, 19, 20. And when you're 21, 22, 23, you can live a life like nobody else is. You can be that guy with a house, throwing a bachelor party when all your other friends can't do that. And I think there's a lot of value in that. So I would just say, the decisions you make at that age are important, but again, you don't have to rush it, thankfully. You can go to college at 23 years old. Nobody gives a shit. So I would say that's my 2 cents on that one.
Okay. So
unless I can just say, somehow Mr. POTUS, P-O-T-U-S, wants to, throw everybody a bone and give them a free wipe out of their debt, which, we'll see. I don't think it'll happen, but
so ridiculous. So ridiculous that we're even having that conversation.
Yep.
Everybody that's for it just doesn't fully understand the long-term implications of a decision like that.
I mean, we don't have to get too deep into it, but if you want to do it, fine. I'm totally for, helping some of these people, because a lot of people don't know, right? They made a decision and it was really shitty and they're stuck by an 8 ball for 30 years. But don't make the same mistake twice. The government shouldn't be giving out free money again. Why are we going to wipe out $500 billion in student loans if we're going to just give another 5 million students over 20 years the same $500 billion and then wipe away again? It's just stupid.
Agreed.
But the government doesn't know what they're doing. So
agreed. So I've got a very broad and expansive topic that I want to go deep into while I've got you on here, coming from that finance background. And I know that, you've given me a lot of focus and direction when it comes to my personal finances and opened my eyes to a lot of those different things. So something that I've wanted to do is tailor that conversation similar to the way you tailored it to me, where I am not, working a 9-to-5 job. I am not in a typical job. I do not have a paycheck that I can rely upon every week or every other week. So, my income is not necessarily guaranteed at the end of the month. And so, as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs in general, we, those of us that end up standing our ground and those of us that end up making it over the long term we have to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. We have to have a higher risk tolerance, or at least a gravitation towards risk. And so I guess my question to you, and I already kind of know partially the answer because obviously you've helped me a lot.
Right.
But what is, for all the entrepreneurs out there that are maybe listening to this or watching this, what is kind of fundamentally, what are some of the steps that they can take towards building out a framework or building out a personal financial plan to succeed long term and to make sure that, one, they are secure, but also that they are still able to take the necessary risks that come with being an entrepreneur in order to succeed and hopefully see, like we said before, that compounding interest of marginal gains?
Yeah, I would say there isn't really a one-size-fits-all, and I hate to say that, but everybody's situation is going to be unique. It also depends on the person, if they're more risk-adverse or not. I would say I tend to not be, and that's just me personally.
I would agree.
Just in a personal sense, I'm not a big fan of debt, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs, use debt to build wealth. That's fine. I'm just a person that would kind of go about it maybe a different way. So I would say it really just comes down to balance. What are you comfortable with in terms of reinvestment in the company versus kind of your priorities in your personal financial situation? So whatever personal goals you have, you want to, save up for a house or whatever that would be. I would say you want to just balance those risks with whatever your business is and kind of reinvesting into that specifically, because that can, your business can be hungry. It can need a lot. You need a lot of capital. So I don't have a specific answer. I would just say you need to find that appropriate balance to where you don't set yourself too far behind, but you're also making progress on that personal side along with giving the business what it needs to thrive. And that there's no number. I mean, it fluctuates. Whatever your monthly income is at 50-50, goes to the business or personal. That's kind of up to you. But I would say you just want to keep those in mind when kind of venturing towards that.
My thought process with it has always been, for me personally, and I'm one of, so like you said, there's no one size fits all. So what works for me isn't necessarily going to work for another entrepreneur that is maybe risk adverse, whatever it may be. I tend to gravitate towards a little bit higher risk. I have a much higher risk tolerance, I feel like, than average as far as what I'm willing to lose in order to potentially gain a lot more. So, for me, the way I've always looked at it was, obviously we all have expenses. We all have, a certain amount that we need at the end of each month to get by, to be able to put food in our mouths, to have, a roof over our head. We have maybe a cell phone bill, electric bill, things with, these expenses with the office are starting to add up. So, Wi-Fi, all these different expenses. If I've always looked at it as like, get that, we talk about kind of having that, what is it called? The kind of that security fund.
Right. Emergency fund. Yeah.
Having that emergency fund. So like get that squared away. Mine's much lower than yours. And like I said, it's just more risk adverse. Right. And like, if I look at it as like, it's, what is it? 6 to 8 months?
3 to 6 months typically.
6
but
months.
Again, it's kind of just to you personally. So if you're more risk adverse, you probably want to keep that lower at 3 or 6 months, or it could be a number. It could be $8,000, $12,000, $15,000. But yeah, your point's taken.
Yeah, I'm definitely towards like the 3 months. So like for me, it was like, if I can't get my shit figured out in 3 months, like if I'm, net negative for 3 months straight and I can't A, find a job if I have to find one, or B, figure my shit out, like there's a lot of other things that are wrong.
Right.
Like, kind of the money isn't even the problem at that point. It's just
3 months
it's
is a long time.
It's a long time. And so for me, it's always been kind of get that money aside at the minimum amount it can be, get the 3 months aside, get the 6 months aside, whatever suits you best. And then it's kind of, what are my expenses? What is my overhead? And, anything above that is money that's going into the bank account as, net. So taking that net and not necessarily spending it all as it comes in, because like similarly with this podcast, I had to wait a little bit to have the money to be able to just invest in it. I'm not a fan of payment plans. Maybe we'll dive into that later. But
payment plans they're controversial, but they probably should be because they're dumb.
They're idiotic. If you need to purchase a phone on a payment plan, then you cannot afford the fucking phone. Period.
Yep.
All that aside, just cover the overhead, and then the rest of that money is like either A, it's money that you can go on the offense with now, or it's money that you can go on the offense with later if you want to wait and accumulate, a larger sum for larger investments. But that's the way I've looked at it. But you kind of changed a lot of my perspective on, like, I was doing that aimlessly. There was no structure. There was no goal. There was no framework. It wasn't like, okay, well, there is this milestone and this milestone and this milestone that I want to hit over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. It was more like, okay, well, here's all the money that I'm netting in a month. So I'm going to just kind of spend it sporadically on equipment, new software, stupid shit.
Yeah. No positive ROI on that.
So what are kind of, talk to me more about kind of what the thought process is that you kind of injected into my life as far as altering my thought process around, if you were operating in a higher risk threshold environment you needed to keep cash liquid or be able to kind of risk more, how does someone operate within that realm and still make sure that they're in line to succeed long term? Not just succeed as far as like acquiring masses of wealth, but just make sure that they're set up.
Yeah, I would say what you'd want to do is maybe build some minimum benchmarks for your personal side, right? Which gives you in your monthly budget, whatever, the flexibility for that supplemental to be thrown at a business or whatever it would be. Because hopefully, the more money you're throwing at a business reinvesting will generate, more future revenue and cash flow from that. So I would say you want to still give yourself on a personal side, framework, goals, all that. But, like for you personally, you're more risk adverse. So you would want to have less minimums on your personal side to have extra to throw at the business, which, there isn't a right or wrong. I just want to say that it really isn't. It's just depending on everybody's built differently and everybody's priorities are different. So I would just say you want to make sure whatever the answer is, you want to still give yourself some sort of framework and minimums to make sure like, okay, even if I'm throwing money at the business and it's not doing too well, I'm still making progress on the personal side, because that has to happen.
For if you were speaking to kind of your average kind of startup entrepreneur, so he's sub 5 years, he's kind of just starting this thing. It's obviously those are the most volatile years. It's where businesses are most likely to go under. Mass majority of them do. If you're kind of speaking to that new founder, what is kind of, if you can think of one, what is kind of the one piece of, if you could just give them one piece of personal finance or financial advice, what would it be?
So there's definitely a lot of thoughts coming through. I would say the one is, from my perspective, and I kind of already answered it, is make sure you're still taking care of yourself. And I don't think it takes a lot, right? So let's say you're a new entrepreneur, you're 25 years old, starting your own business, whatever. I still think it's important to give yourself, in more of that personal finance aspect, still be saving for retirement. Put $100, $200 a month away, whatever it is. I'm not saying your business won't pan out. I hope it does, and it probably will. But you want to have that security that you're still taking care of yourself, because as we mentioned before, if you start late behind the 8 ball, it makes it a lot more difficult. So you want to be able to give yourself a little bit of something to make progress on, but still, feed your business, whatever you want to do, but give yourself some minimums to work with to make sure you're making some progress, because it's a pain in the ass to start from behind, and it's sometimes extremely difficult. So give yourself a little bit to work with, but if you want to prioritize your business, that's you, but make sure you're doing, something for progress on your personal side.
Right. Making your money work for you.
Yes, that's the goal, right? I mean, there's people out there that want to work until they're 80, right? That's my grandfather.
I'll die with my boots on.
84, 85. I mean, just goes to work every day. It's insane. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. But
that's how you know they're doing something they love. And
that's true.
I definitely feel, and whether it's the digital marketing side, I don't think it'll be in the trenches of digital marketing, literally physically managing social media accounts.
You don't like that?
Well, it's part of the game
it's
right
tedious,
now.
Right.
But, that's, to me, it's just a cog in the machine. It's, for me, the true rush, the true fulfillment comes from the creation of systems, processes, businesses, things of that nature. And then the scaling of those, like the growing of them as well as their impact.
Right.
And so, for me, long term, I want to be able to kind of just be that navigator, that captain, that kind of like, if we need to, a storm's coming or the winds are changing, hey, we need to adjust the sails, and then we adjust the sails and we kind of change our course. So for me, long term, definitely something along those lines. Now, something I definitely would like to dive in here with kind of some of the remainder of our time that we have here would be investments, and kind of talking about investing the money that you have. So if we're no longer talking about, the average person is having a hard enough time paying their bills or living beyond their means.
Right.
That's a whole nother story. But for those of us that maybe are, we're net positive month to month, we're putting money away, making smart decisions, being disciplined is what it really comes down to. Like being disciplined, working hard, making sure that ourselves and our family are taken care of. For that select few that have that extra capital that's now sitting in a bank account, every moment that it's sitting in a bank account, it's actually losing value when it's just in cash.
Especially with today's inflation.
Correct. So
yep.
What are these people supposed to do with, like, let's talk more about like what you do with the money once you get it.
Right. Yeah. So I would say when you're looking for a longer perspective, especially regarding like retirement planning, you want to look at, I would say, 2 different funnels to where you'd want to put your money. You want to either look at an IRA, which is an individual retirement account, or if you're with a specific employer that offers retirement accounts, those are called 401ks. Those are the 2 where most people would start. So IRA just stands for individual retirement account, 401k, tax code for an employee or employer-based account. You want to use these accounts because they're tax sheltered. All that means is they don't get taxed until the money's taken out. So you want to put money in those, and once you do that, that's just the account. Then you want to invest within the account, and there's different investments, mutual funds, ETFs, that's a different conversation. But you want to let your money work for you in those accounts, and 40, 50 years down the line, you can take that money out penalty-free. And if you use a Roth option, a little technical, but you actually don't pay taxes on that when you take it out. So you can have literally millions, if not tens of millions of dollars waiting for you if you just take simple actions now. And it doesn't take much. I mean, $100, $200 a month for 30, 40 years. I mean, people spend that on like fucking Starbucks. They spend it on McDonald's. I'm guilty. But really, like, it doesn't take much to be extremely successful. It's just knowing where to put the money and how to, invest the money. And again, that's kind of what will help people with kind of an understanding and learning is that it really doesn't take much.
What separates, it's one thing for me. It's one thing to be rich. It's an entire other thing to be wealthy. Like you can have riches. It doesn't mean you're wealthy. Wealth is kind of this, wealth, we're talking generational. Rich, we're talking about kind of like within your lifetime, what you're going to be able to do, some disposable income, you can pass some on, have some cool things, whatever it may be. Wealth is more, you're building a legacy of money more or less. And it's not, when we go from rich to wealth, it's not like you can be rich, and then in order to kind of go through the process of going from rich to wealthy, a lot of it comes down to the allocation of your riches.
Right.
What are you doing with that money? Are you investing it, or are you spending it, or are you, what are you spending it on? How are you using it? And I'm the kind of person that really, I don't judge anyone for spending their money how they want to spend it. You've earned it. If you plan on, being buried with your wealth, it is what it is.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty interesting concept. I've never really thought about it. I don't know what the technical definitions, rich and wealth, whatever. But I would say rich people, I would say, almost have that persona. Maybe they spend a lot of money. They've got a nice car, a nice house. But if you look a little bit deeper, I would say a lot of these people, like, they're extremely underwater on that house, right? Maybe they've got like a $700,000 home, but they've only got 50 grand of equity in it, right? Whatever the case may be. I think wealth comes into more of complete ownership of what you own and the fruits that provides to you in terms of income or whatever it would be. I would say there definitely is a difference there, and that's a pretty interesting concept that I haven't really thought about, but when you apply it to the real world, there is a difference.
Right, because, there's a lot of people that have what you and I at our age might look at as they got a lot of money. They got a fuckload of money. But it doesn't necessarily mean that their great-great-grandchildren will be enjoying that money.
Right.
And, all the more power to them if they end up, coming towards the end of their life and saying, you know what, my kids and the next generations, they got to fend for themselves. They got to learn their own way. I don't want them being privileged. I'm going to donate every penny that I made. There's nothing wrong with that either. Like wealth to me, it doesn't necessarily just mean that it's generational or that it's passed down. It's just like that's the amount of wealth that you have.
Right. It can be. It has the opportunity to be that.
To be more crude, it's fuck you money.
Yeah.
When you get to the level of fuck you money, it means you not only do what you want, but it's crazy to me. Something even more powerful today is to say what you want. Like a lot of people do what they want. We all inherently end up doing what we want in the end, as long as we are in an environment where we have free will, which most of us are. But, for those of us that say what we want, that's a powerful thing now.
Yep. And it can be difficult because, a lot of people, there's a lot of pressures to say certain things. You don't want to offend somebody because we're in this offensive age. Fuck, it's just so stupid. But, just role models to look at, just people that do say, what they feel and kind of live by what they preach. And I think, like I said at the beginning, you want to live differently. You don't want to live like everybody else because then you'll be like everybody else. And everybody else is broke. Everybody else is behind the 8 ball. So you want to stand out in the crowd. And that's a unique way to do that for sure.
I don't understand. I've never understood why anyone would want to be average.
Well, I would say it's less work. I mean, if you want to not do anything, you just be
average is miserable. Like to me, it's
but do what it is. Great point. Average, in my opinion, is it's enough to get by, but you're never gonna get ahead. You know what I mean? Like you're just comfortable enough to keep doing what you're doing because it's just comfortable enough, but you're always gonna be struggling. But it's not enough struggle to change. So I think that's kind of why people kind of live that lifestyle. And I think the people that really do change and become successful might hit rock bottom and then say, fuck, I'm just not living like this anymore. I gotta change my life. And they turn around and become abnormal to be like the abnormal people that are at the top.
It's like surviving versus thriving. Everybody, the masses are surviving.
And I think, I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, and I'm not, but I think just, people need help, and people are not taught certain things and how to live, and are not given or provided the resources. There's always a certain population that needs assistance, and I think that, that's part of our platform is to help them. You've always got that population that's just lazy, they don't give a shit, whatever. But there is a percent that is curious, has a curiosity, wants to learn more, but they just need that assistance. And I think I have respect for those people. I don't have respect for the fat fucks that just sit on the couch. I don't. Sorry. I don't.
I have zero sympathy for just pure laziness. Because, for every lazy individual out there, there's other people.
Well, we got to support them too. Like, I don't want to support you. I don't mind supporting you, actually, if you work hard, but you're still behind 8 ball. Like, if somebody works 60-hour weeks and they're in poverty, like...
Or if they just don't have a choice.
Right, or they don't have a choice, like, we'll help you out. But if you're somebody that just, like, eats on the government's benefits, like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I am all for helping people, like helping others who are, maybe less fortunate, those who maybe, like, for people that I used to work a job where, we worked with people who were physically disabled. These guys, there's no chance at what we consider normal for them.
Yeah.
So, for me, it was more like obviously there's people out there that do genuinely deserve to be taken care of. But then there's a lot of fucking people that don't. There's a lot of people.
I would say more than that. I would say just more people in that basket than the other basket,
100%. People, one, either taking advantage of the system, or two, it's a really sad scenario. It's a sad truth, but a lot of them are not necessarily mentally coherent enough to even think about these things because they're, under the influence of drugs, alcohol, all these different things that just degrade your ability to make decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, I'm definitely glad we got to dive into kind of the financial side of being an entrepreneur, because I know for me, kind of the way you gave, that's the thing. You gave me, and this is a testament to you and what you're doing with Millionaire Mindset and the content that you guys are putting out, is you gave me a framework. You actually gave me a framework, and a framework can be taken and can be utilized and adapted to the individual and their circumstances. So I was able to make that work for me, being an entrepreneur, being a higher risk tolerance individual, and being in a higher risk environment. I was able to still make it work for me, and it's done some amazing things for me. So, that's, like I said, a testament to what you guys are doing. And it can also work for someone like yourself that, works a corporate job. Now you've got this little side gig going on, which I'm very excited to continue to work with you on, and continue to produce some content for. We got the first podcast we'll be shooting this week, right?
Yeah, it'll be up by within the next 7 days. So
5 days.
3. It'll be as soon as we can. But yeah, I just want to start getting it out because people need help. People really need help, and it's hard to find it, especially in that we kind of talked about it. The education system isn't there for them. So, a lot of people are turning to social media and YouTube, and we'll be there for them.
So where can these people find you at on social media platforms, things of that nature?
Yeah, so we're Millionaire Mindset Online School, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're everywhere. And we'll be, we've got some older content from a few months back, you'll see. But a lot of this new stuff will be some good shit coming out. I'm excited. And hopefully they are too. It's going to be a different way of delivering content that we did before. Hopefully it's more appealing, but the substance is still there, and that's what we want to deliver. So
it's definitely more scalable.
Yes, that's what we want. I mean, we were reaching people, but it's going to be a different way of approaching, and I think it'll be much more successful, and we'll put in time. More. Yeah.
And when you guys are tuning into Millionaire Mindset's content, you will probably recognize this studio. Isn't that right?
Probably, yes. most definitely. Yeah, we'll be doing some different scenery and whatnot, but we've got this space that we'll be utilizing for sure, and it'll be exciting to maximize the utility of this space for sure.
This is why you got me to move down here, isn't it?
Yeah, all I wanted was your fucking new mics and shit. I'm like, fuck you. What do I care? But no, it's exciting to have an old friend down and doing a lot of new ventures together. It's been exciting and a lot more to come for sure.
Yes, sir. We're just getting started. This is only the calm before the storm.
That's right.
All right, Nico, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm sure you'll be on some future episodes.
Will do.
We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. This is episode 1. Welcome to the Underground Kings, and we will catch you all in the next episode.